But what a great thing for a Friday. All right, so let's look at your review. You will get a cheat sheet for your test, just like you always do. Ideally, I would have already had it copied so you could see what's on it, but it's gonna have product rule, quotient rule, chain rule, your derivative limit definitions. And that's kind of like mainly what the test is over. Okay. So let's do a couple examples off each page. And then you guys will have some time to kind of try stuff on your own. Okay. First page, if you are not doing product rule, quotient rule, or chain rule, you're doing it wrong. It's one of those three. So which question on the front is a quotient rule? Number 3, very good. Now, quick question. Why is number 5 not a quotient rule? Huh? Okay, there's not more than one x, and that's exactly correct. That in order for it to be quotient rule, it has to be x stuff divided by more x stuff. And the top on number 5 doesn't have an x with it. So for 5 and 6, you're going to rewrite those and take the derivative. You're not going to quotient rule those. These are both chain rule. Okay, so we're going to do number 6, then we'll come back and do number 5. Okay, first question, put RW for rewrite. My sine 4x is going to move up. What power will I assign it if it's a square root on the bottom? -1/2. Very good. Okay, then let's go through our layers. My outside layer is the power. Then what? Yes, so this is the outside layer, the 20 and the power. What's the next layer? The sine. And then what's the next layer after that? The 4x. So let's take the derivative. So we're doing yellow first, then green, then pink. Here we go. -1/2 times 20 is what? -10. Okay, then remember that my sine 4x has to stay identical because that's not the layer that I'm on yet. Okay, then my -1/2, I need to take away 1. So what's -1/2? Take away 1 more. Very good, -3/2. Now I go in a layer. What's the derivative of green if green is sine? Cosine. The 4x stays the same because I'm not on that layer yet. And then the derivative of 4x would be a times 4. Very good. Okay, then from there, we have some constants that we can times together. The -4 times, the 4 times the -10 is a -40. Which of those terms is going to end up getting pulled to the bottom? The one with the -3/2 on it. So this guy's going to end up on the bottom, sine 4x. And then if it's to the 3/2, remember that means it's in a square root and it's cubed. Okay, and then the cosine 4x, we can just kind of leave that on top. Okay, so that would be your answer. Okay. Any questions on that? All right, let's take a look at number 3. So number 3 we said is quotient rule. Remember, quotient rule is high and ho. High is what's on top, ho is what's on bottom. So the high for number 3 is x cubed minus 2x. And then the ho would be 4x minus 1. Okay, take both of those derivatives. Remember, we're going to call the derivatives d high and d ho. x3 minus 2x, what's the derivative? 3x squared minus 2. And then for the 4x minus 1, derivative is just 4. Okay, from there, remember the order on quotient rule matters. It's ho d high, then minus high d ho. Okay, but you will have that order on your cheat sheet for your test. Okay, so it'll be 4x minus 1 times 3x squared minus 2. And then high d ho would be x3 minus 2x times 4. You just need that one. Yep. And then over ho squared. And y'all, your test isn't today. You're like this because of pre-cal. It's next time. All right, now for your test, most of the derivatives are multiple choice. So what that means is this answer is correct. Okay, but remember on Delta Math, you're going to have to simplify it so that you can pick the right answer. So what the plan is you're going to times this part out. You're going to times this part out, and then you're going to have to combine like terms on the top. Now, what I would suggest for the minus is rather than keeping the minus here, let's just move it to already be on the 4 so that you don't have to worry about forgetting that the subtraction applies to both. Okay? So 4x times 3x squared, this is first times first. That would be what? 12x3. Next term is 4x times minus 2. That'd be a minus 8x. Now we're going to the minus 1. Minus 1 times 3x is a minus 3x squared. Negative 1 times negative 2 is a plus 2. Okay, then I'm timesing this 4 in with the negative from the subtraction. So minus 4 times x cubed is a minus 4x3. And then minus 4 minus 2x would go to a plus 8x. Which term will just cross out all the way? The 8x's are gone. And then which ones can I combine? Yeah, the 12 and the minus 3. So 12 take away 3 would leave me with 8x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2. All of that over ho squared. And you will not have to simplify the ho squared. Okay, the way that it is fine. Questions on that? Okay. So we did a chain rule, we did a quotient rule. Which one is product rule? There's only one product rule on the front. Number 2, correct. Underline the pieces of your product. Remember, product rule means that you have X stuff times more X stuff. So this is going to be a 4X times a tan 5X. So put PR for this one is product rule. Okay. My U is a 4X, we said. My V is a tan 5X. What does that make U prime? Just a 4. Okay, now for tan, the derivative of tan is on your cheat sheet. It's secant squared. So my tan 5x will go to a secant squared 5x. But you need chain rule. Here's why. It's not tan x, it's tan of 5x. So I have an inside layer there of 5x. What's the derivative of that layer? Times an extra 5. So just make sure, even if you're mainly doing product rule, you could still have like a little bitty, chain rule inside that. Okay, then diagonal plus diagonal. Okay, remember for product rule, it actually doesn't matter which one you do first. Okay, Mauricio, can we put that away, honey? All right, so I'm going to have 4 times tan 5x plus 4x secant squared 5x times 5. Then remember, the way almost all of your answers are going to be presented as multiple choice is if there's a GCF, they're going to pull it out. So what could I take out of those? The 4. Good. So the 4 would come out. That'd be a tan 5x plus a 5x secant squared 5x. Okay. So just kind of look at that, see if that makes sense. Also, you cannot take the 5x out because remember, those are like part of the secant and part of the tan. So you can't pull stuff out of the trigs. Those are stuff. Okay. All right, when you're ready, turn the page. So the next page, they're pretty much still just derivatives, but they're presented as multiple choice. So you can kind of practice what the test will look like. We'll do maybe one off this page. Maybe number 9 or number 12. Do you care? 9 has an E in it. Do we want to do 9? Okay, what rule are we doing on 9? Product rule, quotient rule, or chain rule? Products. Very good. Underline your pieces. Okay, your U is going to be an E to the 8x. And then your V is going to be a 2x plus 1. And then we're going to take both baby derivatives and then do the diagonals. Now, for the derivative of E, you're going to need a little baby chain rule inside that because it's not just E to the x, it's E to the 8x. What's the derivative of E to the 8x? It would be E to the 8x again. But then when I get to the 8x layer, what's the derivative? Times 8. Yes, ma'am. Times 8. Very good. Okay, for your V prime, what's the derivative of 2x plus 1? Just a 2. Okay, then write your cross product for me. So it'll be this plus this. So I'll have E8x times 2, E8x 8, 2x plus 1. Okay, now this is where this answer is correct, but none of these answers look like that. So you're going to have to think about, okay, how can I simplify my answer so that it looks the same as an answer choice? Do you notice that on several of these answers, the E to the 8x is pulled out? We're going to do that as well. So take out a GCF of E to the 8x, and we're going to take out a 2 with it. Now, from the first term, so we have this and this, how much of the first term am I pulling out as a GCF? Literally all of it. You have to leave something, so just leave a 1 in that spot. So I'm leaving a 1 for the first box. Then for the second box, I'm taking out the E to the 8x and I'm taking out a 2. How much is going to be left from the 8? A 4. And then also the whole 2x plus 1 is going to be left behind. Okay, then from there, I'm going to try to clean up that bracket. So I would have a 1 plus. This is now 4 times 2x is an 8x plus 4. And then the 1 and the 4 would be the same as a what? 5. So looking at your answers, do you see this as the same as B? All right. Questions on that? Okay. Number 12, let's just knock it out. What does the cubed apply to? If the cubed is tucked in like this, do you remember that that means that the entire sine 2x is cubed? So it's like that for your rewrite. Okay, so, and the reason that matters is when you're thinking about your layers, the cubed power, that's the outside layer. What would be inside the cubed layer? The sine, and then inside the sine would be the 2x. So this is a triple layer again. So let's do the cubed layer first. The 3 comes down to the front. Now my sine 2x is to what power? The 2. Then I move in a layer to sine. What's the derivative of the sine layer? Cosine. The 2x layer stays the same, but then what's the derivative of the 2x layer? 2. And then look at your answers. Which one of those is the same? Do you see it up there? It's C. Yeah. Okay, where did the 6 come from? Yeah, the 2 times 3. Okay, good on that? All right, next page, we're going to do 13. Okay, number 13, put a little star on it. This one's a little bit tricky, and there is a question very similar to this on your test. You're just taking a derivative. What rule are you going to use? Product, quotient, or chain? Product, very good. So I have this times that. So my u is a 3x. My v is a 2x plus 6. But if it's in a square root, what power is that the same as? Okay, make sure you do your review over the weekend because you have to take it on Tuesday. Okay? Okay. But I'll post the video. So square root we said is a half. Very good. Okay, do your derivatives. So what will u prime be? 3. Okay, now for v prime, this is a chain rule. It's a little baby chain. So my 1/2 comes down to the front. What is my new power on the 2x plus 6? 1/2 take away 1 would go to a negative 1/2 times, what's the derivative of the inside layer? 2. And so why does the 2 matter? That's going to actually cancel out the 1/2 and totally get rid of that fraction. So this piece is really just the 2x plus 6 to the minus a half. Okay, then let's write our derivative. So this is a product. Okay, so it's going to be this plus this. Order doesn't matter, just make sure you catch both of them. So it's a 2x plus 6 to the half plus a 3x 2x plus 6 to the minus a half. Now, delta math would have taken this. Okay, but remember, your test is going to be presented as multiple choice. You have to pick which answer is the same. So if I had to turn those back into square roots, which one would end up on the bottom? The first one or the second one? Okay, the second one. So this would be 3 root 2x plus 6. And this would be a 3x over root 2x plus 6. Okay, and then the answer choices for this question are going to be presented as a single fraction. So that just means it even says on there you have to get a common denominator. So what would I need to times the first fraction by so that the bottoms can match? Yeah, I would need another root x plus 2. And if 2x plus 6, sorry. And then if I'm going to put one on bottom, where else do I have to put one on top? So I have a root 2x plus 6 times another root 2x plus 6. And remember, whenever that happens, you just keep what's in the middle. The square root crosses out, but the middle part would stay. So on the top, you have a 3 times a regular 2x plus 6 now. No more square root. And then plus a 3x, and then over the 2x plus 6 square rooted on bottom. So take a look at that, see if that makes sense. Okay, then for the top, we're just going to times the 3 in and combine like terms. What is 3 times 2x? And then can we add that with the other 3x? So it'd be how many altogether? 9x plus, then 3 times 6 would be an 18. Okay, and then all of that over 2x plus 6. So that's why I've been kind of warning y'all that sometimes if it's multiple choice, it takes a little bit of work to get, even though this answer is correct, they're not going to leave the answer like that as an answer choice. Okay. All right, go ahead and turn the page. Okay, let's do a chart question. Let's do number 17. You're asked to write the equation of a tangent line. Actually, maybe I picked 15 instead. Okay, you're asked to write the equation of a tangent line. What two ingredients do you need for that? Point and a slope. Very good. Now, for the point, remember that you're plugging into the original. I want to write a tangent line for the equation of G. And then they give me the equation of G. They say that I'm going to do x cubed times f of x. So I'm going to plug my 2 into that. So my 2 is going to get plugged in here. So it's going to be a 2 cubed times f of 2. What is 2 cubed the same as? And then remember, the reason you have the chart is to find the answers for the f stuff. So if I want f of 2, I would go into the 2 row, the f column, and that would give me 3. Then 8 times 3, that would be 24. So we have our point. Next thing we need is our slope, which means we need to take the what? Derivative. And if you're not doing a product rule, quotient rule, or chain rule, you're doing it wrong for this test. So if it's x3 f of x, what rule do I need for this? It needs product rule. Good. So let's do it. My u is going to be an x3. My v is going to be an f of x. Because those are the x's that are being multiplied together. What would u prime be? 3x squared. And then if it's an f of x, the derivative just goes to f prime. Okay, then do diagonal plus diagonal. So it'll be this plus that. Remember, product rule, the order really doesn't matter. As long as you get both of them, you're good. So it'll be 3x squared f of x plus x cubed f prime of x. Okay? And then remember, that's for any x. Now I'm going to plug in my x, which is the number 2. So I'll have 3 times 2 squared times f of 2 plus 2 cubed times f prime of 2. Okay, remember, when you do the 3 times 2 squared, you do the exponent first, then times by 3. So what is 2 squared? 4, and then 4 times 3 would be 12. Then f prime of 2, I'm going to pull that from my table. Or sorry, regular f of 2. What would that be? 3. Okay, plus 2 to the 3rd power, we said earlier, is 8. And then f prime of 2, I'm going to have to pull from my chart. So just make sure you're in the f prime row now. That would be a 2. So then 12 times 3 would be 36. 8 times 2 is 16. That would add to 52. And then once I have my point and my slope, I can write my equation of my tangent line. So it'll be y blank equals blank x blank. And then you're just plugging in the pieces from there. Remember, x and y need to go in as opposite sign. Slope goes in the middle as same sign. So it'd be a 52 here, a -2 here, and a -24 here. And then if I remember correctly from your test, the answers are already in that form. But remember, if it's in y equals mx plus b, you would just times this in, add the 24 across. But I'm pretty sure they're in point slope, just like that. Questions on that? We remember it from the tables homework?
Good afternoon, Eagles. Pardon the interruption. At this time, we need the freshman volleyball players released so they can travel to their final district game. Again, that's freshman volleyball. All freshman volleyball players released to the locker room. Good luck, ladies.
Okay. All right, turn the page. Do we want to do one more from a table? Okay, so you could do pick product, quotient, or chain. I don't care. Which one? Product. Sounds good. So that'd be this one. So your U would be this times that. Then we're going to take our original U and V, find our U and V primes, and then cross product. So my U is a 2x3. My V is an f of x. What would U prime be? 6x squared. What would V prime be? F would go to F prime. And then remember, it's diagonal plus diagonal. You'll plug in the X that they want everywhere that you have an X. So it'll be 2x3 F prime plus 6x squared F. And then they're asking me to find H prime at what number? 2. So this would be 2 times 2 cubed, F prime of 2, which I'll pull from the chart, 6 times 2 squared, F of 2. Okay, let's do the number parts first. So I have a 2 cubed, what's that? 8, and then times it with the extra 2, that would be a 16. I'll come back and find that in a second. Okay, then 2 squared would be 4. 4 times 6 would be 24. And then I need these two numbers. Those are the ones I'll have to pull out of my table. So hopefully we're good with reading these. F prime of 2, you would go into the F prime column as a 4. And then F of 2 would be negative 2. 16 times 4 would be 64. And then 24 times negative 2, that'd be minus 48. 64 minus 48 would be 16. Okay? Questions on that? All right. Go ahead and turn the page. We're going to do number 19. And then everything else past this point is stuff we literally just covered, which should be more fresh on your mind. So take a look at number 19. You have a little chart. Okay, there's a question just like this on your test, but it's really easy and I don't want you to miss it. So it says you have a hurricane, they're checking the wind speeds. It's a continuous function. What is the minimum number of times that the wind speed must have hit 81? This is an intermediate value question. All you need to do is count how many times it would pass through 81. So from 74 to 80, did it have to hit 81? Yes or no? No. No. What about from 80 to 82? Yes. So we have at least one that I would have to hit 81. Then from 82 to 79, would I have to hit 81 again? Yes. That's a second hit. What about 79 up to 90? Yes. What about 90 to 85? No. So 81, I could hit 81, but I don't know because it wouldn't pass through that going down to 85. So your answer would be 3. Good? So no one should miss that one, hopefully. Okay, then remember, you're only guaranteed to hit it if it's between the numbers in the chart. All right, last little bit of this, we're just going to hit some of them. Remember your strategies for the limits are plug it in. If it's 0 over 0, you can fix it by conjugate, L'Hopital's rule, or factor cancel. Okay, so let's do number 20. Okay, if you plug in 3, I'll just tell you that you get 0 over 0. What does 0 over 0 mean for my answer? I have to do more. Now, do we want to do, actually, I'm just going to pick, let's do factor cancel on this one. Okay, we'll try to hit every method, maybe at least a couple times. So top of this, what can I take out? And x. What would be left over from the top? Yes, minus 3. Okay, on bottom, I'm going to use perfect squares. X squared minus 9 would factor into what?
3.
A plus 3 and a minus 3. Okay, once I have it factored, what's going to cross out? Minus 3s. And then remember, your final move is to plug in the x approach value. So if I'm approaching 3, then my goal is to plug that in. So 2 times 3 on top would become a 6. And then on bottom, 3 plus 3 would also be a 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Okay, go ahead and do number 22 right below that. X is approaching minus 2. Remember, my first step is to plug it in. So I would have 5 plus 4 times negative 2 cubed over negative 2 cubed plus 3. Okay, what is negative 2 cubed? Negative 8. What's 4 times negative 8? Close. Minus 32. Okay, over. And then let's, I guess, just subtract that. 5 minus 32 would be negative 27. Okay, then for the bottom, negative 2 cubed, that would be negative 8 again, but this time we're adding a 3. What's negative 8 plus 3? Negative 5. And then if I have 2 negatives divided with each other, those would cross out. So your final answer would be a positive 27 over 5. But remember, if plug it in works, you don't have to do anything fancy on it. Okay? Let's skip down to 26. Will you plug in a 1 to that? So on top, I'd have 4 times 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 5 over 1 minus 1. 1 squared is 1 times 4 is 4. So I have a 4 minus 3 plus 5. What's the top going to come out to be? 6. What's the bottom going to be? 0. And remember, if it's a divide by 0 only on the bottom, you don't have to do more. That's your answer. What is the answer if it's a 0 on the bottom? Not 0. DNE. Remember, 0 on top, you would get 0. But a 0 on bottom is automatic DNE. Don't waste your time trying to fix it. Okay? All right, turn the page. We're on the last one. Okay, let's do number 16. Plug it in. Oh, and then on this page, I forgot to number it correctly. So sorry that it's a little wild back here. Okay, but this one right here, what are we plugging in? X approach 4, then it'd be 4 squared minus 2 over ln of 4. What's 4 squared? 16 take away 2 would be what? 14 over ln 4. And that's good enough. You don't have to know what the ln of 4 is. Okay, you're just taking the number, plug it in. Let's do number 29. What's my x approach number? 2. I'm going to plug it in where the x is. So I have the cosine of 7 pi over 3 times 2. Now remember, you need to simplify that angle first before you pick your finger on your hand. So if that's a 3 times 2, that's really the cosine of 7 pi over 6. Which finger is your pi/6 finger? Ring finger, cosine's up or down? So I have 3 fingers, so it's √3/2. Okay, but then if you're not on the original pi/6, you have to check your all students take calculus. So if I set this up here, ASTC, remember the top half of the circle is 1 full pi. So if I'm counting in 6, this would be 6 pi/6. Where would 7 pi/6 put me? T. And in T, only tan is positive, which means this one would be negative. All right, let's go down to number 32. Okay, 32. We're plugging in x approach 0, so plug it in, top and bottom. I would have the cosine of 0 minus e to the 0 over 2 times 0. What is cosine 0? 1 e to the 0 is also 1. And 1 minus 1 on top is going to give me what? 0. But then 2 times 0 on bottom, that also gives me 0. And remember, if it's 0/0, that's the indeterminate form. That means you have to fix it. Could I use factor cancel here? No, because you can't factor that, right? So that means L'Hopital's rule is going to be your next best option. So L'Hospital, okay, or L'Hopital's rule says that I can take the derivative of the top and the bottom, then just try the limit again. For cosine x, what's the derivative? Negative sine x. What about the e to the x? Stays e to the x. And then on bottom, the derivative of 2x is 2. Then we're going to do our LIM as x approach 0. Hey, what's up?
Was there possibly lost pair of glasses out here yesterday?
No, there wasn't.
No.
Usually if the janitor picks anything like that up, he'd put it on my desk.
Oh, just
Sorry, honey.
see you guys when
Okay, you too, bye. Okay, we're plugging in a 0. Do you remember sine 0? Sine of 0 is 0 because you're on your pinky. You don't have any bottom fingers. So then what would e to the 0 be? So 0 minus 1/2 would be minus 1/2. Okay, and most of the ones, if you get 0/0 with an e in it, L'Hopital's rule is going to be your option. Let's do 34 right below that. Plug in an e. So the top would be the ln of e minus 1 over e minus e. Okay, the ln and the e, you should remember from pre-cal. Maybe you don't, and it's okay. But they cross each other out, and you leave a 1. So ln of e is 1. 1 minus 1 gives me what? 0/0, which tells me that we need to do more. Okay, take the derivative of the top, derivative of the bottom. For the top, it was an ln x. 1/x, very good. And then if you forget, remember, you get your cheat sheet. So ln x goes to 1/x. What about the minus 1 behind it? Just goes to 0. Okay, then on bottom, you have a regular x. What's the derivative of regular x? 1. What about the e? Does it get to stay? No, it's a constant. If it doesn't have an x with it, it's just a regular number. Regular constants go to 0. Then try your limit again. X is approaching e, so I'd have a 1/e. Okay? All right, last one we're going to do off this page is 35. Plug in a 0, I'll just tell you it does give you 0/0. So can you take the derivative of the top and the bottom? What is the derivative of e to the 4x? E to the 4x times what? 4. Remember chain rule. If your x isn't alone, then e to the whatever x is needs chain rule. So it'd be e to the 4x again, derivative of 4x goes to 4. On the bottom, what's the derivative of 5x? And then try the limit again. So if my x is approaching 0, remember anything to the 0 is going to go to what number? 1. So that's going to be a 1 times 4 is 4, and then over 5. Okay. All right, you're on the last page. What is the only method that we haven't done an example of? Starts with a C. Conjugate, everybody's least favorite. So take a look at the next page. You have 2 of them. Okay, we'll do number 37. Okay, first thing I notice is that if I plug it in, I'm going to get 0 over 0. Okay, obviously take the time to check for your test. But if it's 0 over 0, we know we're going to have to fix it. So rewrite it. And remember, you're only going to use the conjugate on the part that has the square root. So what that means is that if the bottom is an x minus 3, I'm only doing the conjugate at the top. And remember, conjugate is where you just switch the sign. So if it's a root x plus 1 minus 2, I'm going to change it to a root x plus 1 plus 2. And if I times that on top, I have to also times it where else? On bottom. Remember though, the bottom guys aren't conjugates. So you wouldn't times those out with each other. You're just going to leave those. It'll make it worse if you times the bottom out. So my bottom, I'm going to write exactly the same as it was. I'm going to have an x minus 3. And I'm going to have a root x plus 1 plus 2. Okay, if they're not conjugates, you're not going to waste your time timesing that out. Okay, now let's do the top. What is root x plus 1 times another root x plus 1? X plus 1, very good. What is root x plus 1 times 2? 2 root x plus 1, very good. Okay, my next term is a minus 2 times a root x plus 1. So that would be minus 2 root x plus 1. And then the last term would be minus 2 times 2, which is minus 4. Remember, the reason that conjugates work out is that your middle 2 terms are going to cross each other out. So what is going to be left on top once these guys are gone? And x plus 1 minus 4. And what is that the same as? X minus 3. And where else do we have an x minus 3? On the bottom. Good. So you would have x minus 3 over x minus 3 and then the conjugate. Now, if I cross everything out of the top, I have to leave something. What do I leave? A 1. And then remember, your whole goal is to eventually plug the x number in, which in this case is what number? 3. So I'm going to write LIM x approach 3, and then we're going to plug that in. So it'll be a 1 over root 3 plus 1 plus 2. 3 plus 1 is 4. What's the square root of 4? And 2 plus 2 is 4. So it'd be 1/4. Okay. All right. The bottom of this is what we just learned last class. So I just want to remind you, where does the f of x live in each of the equations? You'll have these on your cheat sheet. Okay, but if you're doing an h approach 0, do you remember your f of x comes at the back? And then you just take the derivative. So let's say I'm doing 40. What's behind the minus sign on 40? And 2e to the x, what's the derivative? 2e to the x. And that's your answer, and you're done. You circle what's behind the minus, Remember that it means to take the derivative and then do it using your shortcut rules. Okay, let's say I'm doing 42. What's behind the minus? Okay, circle it, take the derivative. What would it be? You got it. Now, in the other version of the limit, where does the f of x live? Before or after the minus? Before, and then remember, after you take the derivative, you have to plug in what your x is approaching. So if I'm doing 41, what's my function? ln x. What's the derivative of ln x? 1 over x, and then I plug in what? X approach 4. So your answer would be a fourth. Okay, let's say we're doing 42. What's your function? Sine x. What's the derivative of sine x? Cosine x. And then I'm going to plug in 5 pi thirds. So then find your pi thirds finger. That'd be your pointer. Cosine's up or down? Up. So it'd be one finger would go to a half, but then you'd have to check the quadrant thing. So if I do all students take calculus, remember top half of the circle is 1 full pi, so it'd be 3 pi thirds. If I go around the bottom, that'd be 6 pi thirds, because I need another 3. So 3 across the top, 3 across the bottom. Where would 5 end up? C. And in C, cosine stays positive. You get the idea? Okay. All right, then on number 39, notice they're giving you the f of x separate. You're still going to do the exact same thing. So they're asking you to do this. What does this mean? Take the derivative, then plug in what? 2. So they're giving you the instruction in a weird way, but you can still do it. So this means take the derivative and then plug in 2. Okay. So what would the derivative of that be? Uh-huh. 6x squared minus, what's the derivative of ln x? 1 over x. And then I would just take my x value, plug it into that spot. So if my x is a 2, that'd be 6 times 2 squared. And then minus 6 times a half. 2 squared is what? 4 times 6 is 24. And then half of 6 here is a 3. And then I would just subtract. So 24 minus 3 would be 21. Okay? All right, in about 5 minutes, they're gonna do the announcement. So obviously I'd love for you to stay and work if you need help. Okay, but everyone's taking their test on Tuesday. You're here today. So I know at the end of Q1, we got a little loosey-goosey with needing extra time for stuff. You have the whole weekend to catch up on homework. If you need help with something, you can come to Advisory Monday. I have tutoring after school on Monday. You had advisory on Tuesday. And then Tuesday 7th, you'll take your test. Okay? Yes. Yes, sure. All right. Good job.